as we go to the aisle. You know what, Sammy? Let's go to the aisle right now.
Welcome to our Fantasy Island.
And we're going to be bringing back one of our favorites to the show. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody the easiest way to play fantasy football is with Underdog Fantasy. Oh, it's amazing. And it's so easy. To get started, just head to underdogfantasy.com or download the app and sign up with the promo code SICK, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. And I'm telling you right now, the Underdog Fantasy app is invaluable. Anytime you need updates, player updates, you get it right to your phone. It is so convenient, so easy to use. And if you've sat there and your team is 1-6 or 0-7 or something like that, start over. Go to underdogfantasy.com, download the app. There are tons of games that you can play, not just traditional fantasy football, but tons of fun games. And we implore you, I think I've used that word already once today, but I don't care. Implore you to go and download that. But joining us right now is one of our favorites. He was here a couple of weeks ago. We had to bring him back. Andy McNamara is here. I don't have enough of your platitudes but you're a friend of the show now. That's how you're being introduced. How are you?
Great. I'm good, brother. I'm good. Hey, you know what? I think I need one of those Air Pura things in my house, Adam, because do you smell the desperation? The desperation of week 8 for fantasy football players. It's a stinky cologne. People are panicking. I got messages saying, should I drop Mike Evans? For who? It's crazy. So I'm happy to be back on with you.
Thank you so much. Now, the Mike Evans situation.
Yeah.
Now, he dropped that touchdown, a sure touchdown pass. He still ended up with well over double digits. I mean, do people just forget that as well?
Yes. I love it. You know what? It's kind of like a sick joy because I enjoy seeing the chaos kind of unfold. And it's just, if you can stay calm, if you can stay relatively calm in fantasy, I think that's a leg up. Because, yeah, you're right. He dropped the touchdown. He's obviously terrible now. Well, not really. Not really at all. He's still pretty good. Future Hall of Famer, you know?
Yeah, he's amazing. And people panic way too much on these players. And I want to talk about people panicking. DJ Moore was one of the most added players on NFL.com fantasy this week, which means a ton of people dropped him a week ago and are now scrambling to pick him up. What do we think of DJ Moore moving forward? I know he's got a great matchup this week against the Atlanta Falcons, but where are we coming down on with the DJ Moore?
Boy, Adam, to me, it all comes down to you have to measure out the quarterback play. Who's the quarterback that's going to be feeding him the football? And that's not a great situation in Carolina. We're on the third string. We're on PJ Walker. If he gets hurt, I think Jacob Eason slides in or something. So I think we have a cap. It is encouraging what we saw last week. So when it's bye weeks, like, look, we got some heavy hitters sitting down this week, right? You're without the Chiefs and the Chargers, so you're probably gonna have to stretch a little bit. So you could do worse than DJ Moore, but personally, I'd rather take like a little flyer on, let's say, a Marquise Goodwin, right? He really popped when DK Metcalf went out last week. Ty Lockett as a hammy. Geno Smith just doesn't care. He just loves life. He's like, sure, bench me. I don't care. I'm just gonna throw it forever. Big deal. So I'd rather go maybe that route, maybe a little more dangerous than Moore. But you know, they have to throw it to somebody.
You're making me think because I was able to pick up DJ Moore in a league and I saw him available on the waiver wire. It's a 10-teamer, but you're like, God, he still seems like a good enough talent. And who else is PJ Walker throwing the football to?
That's it.
What about Wan'Dale Robinson? They got a good matchup this weekend, although Seattle's played better. Wan'Dale Robinson, where do we – I think he could be a number – I think he could end up being the most targeted player in that offense. How do we feel about him?
Isn't it a weird year for the Giants? Like, that feels like the fakest, yet one of the most enjoyable 6-1s in football. Like, they shouldn't be this good. Daniel Jones, is he going to be renewed? There's no wide receivers. It's pretty much Saquon Barkley and Brian Dable just with his magic pixie dust. Just Josh Allen dust. So for one day, like for him on the surface, you think, no, he's like should be a WR 5, 6, 7, not even on your radar. But again, this week coming in a matchup where, and I like to see, okay, what should the game script be? It should at some point. Now you might be able to run because Ken Walker's been dynamite with Barkley. But like I said, Geno Smith isn't afraid to air it out. So Wan'Dale should be getting opportunity. So, hey, you know what? I actually might like him maybe a little bit more than, or at least equal to like a DJ Moore type. So I think it's a good play, a good stream, and probably a cheaper DFS play depending on the format.
Yeah, that's one of see that you're now speaking my language because these are the problems that I have because I have
Yeah.
Wandale Moore and I have DJ Moore or Wandale Robinson and DJ Moore. I lost Marquise Hollywood Brown. Or gosh,
Yeah.
I had loaded up on running backs and I'm like, I got CeeDee Lamb, Marquise Hollywood Brown. I'm good. Then I have to scramble and find people like this. Deontay Johnson's seemingly worthless now, but I want to go back to Daniel Jones. This always seems to happen. Now, last week, I had a stroke of genius where I'm like, you know what? We've been talking about all these quarterbacks we want to stream all week. It should be Daniel Jones. Like, what are we doing? Like, let's make it Daniel Jones. Went with Daniel Jones. And now it feels like everybody's coming around. Everybody's talking about Daniel Jones. And I'm like, I know Seattle should be a smash spot, but you went down to Jacksonville, back up to New York. Now you're across the country going to Seattle. Is it weird? I think Daniel Jones ends up like not playing as well this week.
Adam, I love where your head's at. And that thought, it almost seems like, okay, hold on. More people are liking this? Yeah, all right. This is throwing up some red flags. And he always, of course, gives you that little bit of potential fantasy boost with his legs, right? That like a statue like a Matt Stafford doesn't give you. But yeah, I'm with you. And really, if you look at it, his fantasy point production, what's his median at? Like 14 fantasy points?
Yeah.
You like usually? So I'm totally with you there. You know who I'm a little bullish on too? You mentioned the Panthers earlier. I kind of like Marcus Mariota. And I don't like that I like him, but like 2 weeks before, he ran 50, a rush for 50 yards, 61, came down a little bit last week, hasn't thrown an interception in 3 weeks. I'm like, Carolina's just trying to pack it in. I'm kind of digging Mariota as a flyer.
I love it. Oh, I love Mariota.
I'm nervous though. But
no, I mean, all these guys should make you nervous. I was thinking about going. I was looking at Matthew Stafford a lot, and I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like the Rams can't be terrible forever. It would be so on brand for fantasy football to have Matthew Stafford go out and crush it right when everybody has written him off. But at the same time, like you said, he doesn't run enough. Like we don't get that bonus 4 points because he runs the ball. That I'm probably going to avoid him. Are there anybody else? Are there any other quarterbacks who are possible this week? Garoppolo has never played well against the Rams. Like a lot of what about like what's going on in Tennessee? Could we see Malik Willis this week?
Boy, oh boy. You know what? Malik Willis, I feel like quarterbacks with the athleticism of Malik Willis, who can primarily use their legs, if they get in, typically like the first game that no one's seen him, they like 40 fantasy points and people freak out, and then defensive coordinators kind of figure them out and they come back down to earth. So I definitely have my eye on him. Like if he's going to start, I don't want to gamble and maybe take an in-game change or something, but if he starts, I would play Malik Willis for game one. Absolutely. I think he could. One guy I'm avoiding though, boy, Adam, I don't know if you've been getting the hype quotation around Sam Ellinger. I'm like, the guy ran a bit in college. You're making him sound like Lamar Jackson. Stop it. Stop it. He's one of the worst offensive lines in football. Matt Ryan banished for the Colts. Like, no. Like, I'm feeling the Sam Ellinger hype. I'm like, no, it's not that bad yet, people. Don't go Ellinger. I don't like it.
I want to though. But for the exact reasons that you said. I mean, when you compare him to Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, like he looks like Usain Bolt. Like he's out there, and what is he going to do? He's going to run. Like he's just going to run around. That's what like this gives the Colts a RPO option that they have not had over the last number of years. And like you said, the defensive coordinators, like, what are they going to do? Like, they don't know what to do with him. Like, how do you stop him? How do you hem him in? I think that there's a possibility that he pops, and then next week's the week that he falls apart.
And then goes down. It could be. And what does that mean for a Jonathan Taylor? Like this new dynamic that we haven't been used to at all in Indy is, even behind that not good offensive line, does that RPO option, does that help Jonathan Taylor, who's been such a disappointment? My gosh, first overall. Yeah. Man, like first overall fantasy picks the last 3-4 years. Yeah, I just don't want to go first anymore. If I have first overall, I'm like, can I get rid of this? I don't like this.
Well, I went 10th and got Aaron Jones, so it hasn't been super good for me as well. Yeah. But you know what? I've been actually advising people to go out and try to get Jonathan Taylor because so many folks, so many fantasy managers are disappointed, and you might be able to just spring a deal for something on the cheap, somebody just willing to give up on him. The problem with people like us, though, is we cannot make trades in our leagues because anytime that you offer anything, like I could sit here and be like, I'll give you Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley for Jonathan Taylor, that deal would be turned down.
Yeah.
Because somebody would be like, what do you know?
You know something.
Like, oh, no, they'll never trade with you. So we would never have the opportunity to make that deal. And by the way, that's a terrible deal. But at the same time, like, I'm trying to just pick at people who have Jonathan Taylor. Like, what do you got to lose? At this point, you're not the one who sunk, first round capital in it. And if you're, if you're somehow packaging Travis Etienne in a receiver for him, like, I don't know, I might take a chance on that. Speaking of which, what do we make of James Robinson going to the Jets? Who's going to end up being the lead back there?
Boy, just when you think there's like a little bit of, okay, well, Michael Carter. Oh, and now there's depth chart clarity in New York. Okay, now I know what to do. No, the Jets say not happening. I think for this week, it's going to be sort of what we saw with CMC a little bit, limited play script. They'll try to work him in a little bit. If we're talking week 8, Michael Carter. After that, I like what James Robinson has been able to do throughout his career. I feel like that explosiveness, and the yards per carry is higher than I thought at 4.2 this year, still low, but didn't really have that explosiveness. Is that Jacksonville? How's that going to be with the Jets? I think he's eventually going to probably take over, but I don't know, Adam. I'm sort of feeling that same target share split or snap split that we saw in Jacksonville where it's almost even. And then it's like, kind of guess it. Quick sign up. I feel that James Robinson is getting Philip Lindsay. Guy does great, undrafted, awesome. And then people just keep wanting to get rid of him. Why?
Yeah. Because they didn't, first of all, Trent Baalke did not put any sort of stock into him.
Yeah.
No draft capital in James Robinson. I thought last year when the Rams had an injury? I guess it was Cam Akers when he went down. I had said it had to be last year, where I'm like, the Rams should inquire about James Robinson. And all the Jags fans were in my men, like, there's no way we're ever trading this guy. It would never happen, blah, blah, blah. And this is before ETN went down. And I'm like, okay, like, you guys know more than me, apparently.
Right.
But eventually he does get traded. And it's unfortunate because I think that when you're an undrafted player or a late round pick outside of like Tom Brady or somebody like that, they always default to their pre-draft analysis.
Yeah.
Which is why you see so many first round picks getting traded, because teams will go back and be like, well, what grade did we have for this player coming out of college? I think of N'Keal Harry. I'm sure that Ryan Poles went back to say, what did we see out of him coming out of Arizona State? And they go back and they're like, okay, this guy's worth the risk. We'll ignore what happened in New England. And I think this happens with these running backs, that they're just like, well, he's an undrafted free agent, so let's just take it. The Jags feel, and a 6th round pick is just disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that you couldn't get a little bit more out of that. But, one guy who did get a lot of draft capital traded for him was Christian McCaffrey. Last week, it didn't quite happen as I thought it would. I could have sworn that, like, Juszczyk was going to get a touchdown where they faked it to him. It ended up being Ray McLeod. But now that he's had a week in that facility, what do we see from CMC moving forward?
I think we all have to remember that Kyle Shanahan hates your fantasy football team. He hates us. He just hates it. You're right. Him and Belichick, they'll throw some weird. Who was it? Bo Scarborough, like 3 years ago, the day Sunday. Makes me furious. But for the 49ers and CMC, look, like you said, follow the draft capital, follow the money. You put a lot into CMC, you're going to want to get him that workload. The guy who falls out is Jeff Wilson. I have Jeff Wilson in 2 leagues. What am I doing with Jeff Wilson? I'm parking him in case there's some sort of injury. But now I want to see, how does this workflow go? How do you work in Debo? How do you work in McCaffrey? Because really, they're both hybrids, but Debo is more of a receiver hybrid and McCaffrey's more running back. But I'm just intrigued how this works out. And then there's George Kittle. Do we write off Brandon Ayuk? There's a lot going on. I'm comfortable playing Christian McCaffrey because he's Christian McCaffrey and you're going to play him. But the rest of that team and offense, very intrigued.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Debo still, so I'm not going to waver off him.
Me neither.
George Kittle, because there's no other options. You're hoping. I mean, you're going to be in a situation. I don't think it's Kyle Pitts-esque, but it's close. Brandon Ayuk is the one where I'm like, who I love. Again, going back to the ASU guys, it's like, I can't really love it. But by the way, just to pull back the curtain a little bit, this isn't a live show. We record this on Thursday afternoon. we just got news right now. I don't know if you saw this. Kadarius Toney traded to the Chiefs.
Interesting.
I think of this fantasy, since we're on Fantasy Island, I don't think this makes much of an impact. What do you think about this move, though? This is wild. Like, Kadarius Toney is somebody that a lot of fantasy enthusiasts always throw out, like, oh, Kadarius. Also, look at Kadarius Toney. Never panned out. Could the Chiefs be onto something here?
I think it's, when you look at the Chiefs, the wide receiver group, I just pulled up the depth chart here, right? I think it's more of a damnation to how they failed to sort of compensate for Tyreek Hill. Juju's in and out of the lineup. MVS, McCall Hardman, like, he'll get a chance, but again, the guy hasn't been able to be healthy. He's had a lot of red flags off the field as well, whatever the issues were.
Yeah.
So, but now you're in winning territory with the Chiefs. We've seen that can work for people. Fantasy wise, I'm personally going to pass. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. This is Travis Kelce's world coming from Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see how the rest goes. But real life wise, hey, you know what? If it's another wrinkle that keeps defenses thinking, and we know you can pop him in the backfield, slot out, you can just have him run around. Real life wise, I like it, but fantasy wise, I'm not interested.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on here, because I've said this, that Patrick Mahomes was not going to suffer fantasy wise. I thought that Kelce would take a little bit of more of a hit, but that hasn't really panned out, obviously. I just still fear when the Chiefs get into those big games and they get into the big playoff games and things like that. That's when the absence of Tyreek Hill really shows itself. Fantasy wise, this is great. This is perfect for Kadarius Toney. We love that. And you know what? So that's a great deal for them. A guy with an opportunity to really make something of himself. Now, I know that you're up against it. We got to let you go. But before we do, I wanted to let everybody know that there is going to be a new member of the Sick Podcast family. Sick Podcast Cleveland with our own Andy McNamara. Tell us a little bit about this.
Let's go. Absolutely. Adam, I love being on with you the first time. I thought, well, I got to get in on the Sick Media Network. It's great. The guys behind the scenes are tremendous. So I thought, well, as you can see behind me, there's a lot of Cleveland Browns gear. And, like Bears fans, we love to hate ourselves and put ourselves through pure hell. And I thought, well, why not do that twice a week right here on Sick Media with the Sick Podcast? So I'm going to mix in Cleveland Browns talk, players, insiders, analysts, give out our dog bones, who's in the doghouse. We'll talk some fantasy football, of course, some betting picks, some best bets as well, and have a lot of fun twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. So I can't wait to join the family.
No, we really appreciate having you on. And I know that the last time you were on here, we talk after the show and we're like, hey, I'm like, damn, I always liked Andy. I didn't realize how well you did, and especially in the broadcast realm. So
thank you.
You have a great energy and you have a great presence. And I don't really even like the Cleveland Browns, but I'm looking forward to listening to your podcast. I'm going to check in on it because I think you do a great job. And I think you're one of the best in the business, not only in fantasy, but to get an opportunity to talk Cleveland. I know for people like us, we make our hay in fantasy, but like we're fans of one specific team. So to get an opportunity to talk about it, I think is fantastic. When do you guys start? When is the first show?
Well, first, thank you so much. And Adam, I'd love to have you on as a guest as well to talk some fantasy as well. So we're going to start first show new month, November 1st. So Tuesday, coming right off of that Bengals Browns Monday nighter. There might be a bit of a gong, Undertaker gong sound to start the show. I don't know how that goes. So we're starting this Tuesday, then every Tuesday and Friday to keep you up to date on, like I said, fantasy football, best bets going forward, win some cash, and then, of course, Cleveland Browns.
Oh, my gosh. I can't wait for that. I know. What an ominous time to start, but you know what? It's okay. Yeah. Give everybody, like the Factory of Sadness will be running full steam. So check out the Sick Podcast Cleveland with our friend Andy McNamara starting November 1st. We can't wait for it, but Andy, thank you so much. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for taking a trip to the aisle, and we'll be tuning in on November 1st to see you.
Adam, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.